So we are going to can some grape jelly today, and here's my pasta pot. I don't know if you can see the steam, but in this pot are my jars on a small makeshift rack, and it's been boiling for 10 minutes. Here, you can't really see it, but I have 4 cups of grape juice. So I've just turned the heat on my juice, and we're going to add the pectin, the dry pectin. Now, you may have bought some at the store, Sure Gel. This would be the time to add it. I'm using Pacific Pectin, and this also is the time to add it. When you use Pacific Pectin, you use a 1/3 cup. And then we're going to stir that in while it heats up. And I'm going to make this in a way, or in the way that the recipe calls for in just the regular box of powdered pectin. So we're going to stir this in, and we're going to bring it to a boil. That's all there is to this step. It's going to take a little bit, so I'm not going to keep the camera on the whole time. But this is the basic beginning step to jelly making. Now, I'll tell you, it does not matter where you get your jelly, or I'm sorry, where you get your juice. This might be fresh pressed juice if you have grapevines. This can be bottled juice, Welch's grape juice. This can be frozen concentrate grape juice. The whole process of breaking down grapes into juice is quite lengthy. Somebody, when I was gone taking care of my dad, somebody stole my grapevine. So later I will show you how I do cherries, and it's basically the same way. But for now, use whatever juice you have, or if you're a first timer, just grab a bottle of Welch's grape juice or a frozen concentrate. Make sure it's 100% juice, and give it a shot. It's super easy. The longest part to canning is the preparation. Washing the jars. You wash them in hot soapy water. Check the rims of the jar for cracks or nicks, and get them boiling, and boil them for 10 minutes. Mine are done boiling, and they're just sitting there in hot water waiting for the jelly. While this is heating up, I just want to mention I've taken a small saucepan and put my washed up jar flats and rings in a pan of water, just like that. And I'm going to put it on a back burner and just start getting it warm to simmer. It's not so important that you do the rings, I just like to keep them all together. So I have it up, or I had it up to a boil, and I'm adding half the sugar that I pre-measured. My recipe calls for 5 cups of sugar. So we're just going to stir this in and bring it up to a simmer so that all the sugar can dissolve. And that's basically all what we're doing right now, is dissolving the first half of the sugar. Okay, you can see we are back to a simmer. You can see the bubbles on the side, and we're going to add the rest of the sugar We're going to get that dissolved and bring it back to a boil. Basically, this is all it is just stirring the juice and the sugar and getting it to the right temperature. It's so simple. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and it doesn't say this in a lot of recipe books. Actually, it doesn't ever say it ever anywhere. But there are some jam and some jelly recipes that you absolutely cannot get to a full rolling boil because it's excuse me, because it's so thick and heavy. You'll get big bubbles, just like, you know, a few coming up to the surface, you know, like bloop, bloop, bloop. And that's what you're going to have to consider as a rolling boil on some. Not all, some. But nobody ever tells you that. When I first started canning, I actually scorched, I think it was tomato jam. Maybe it wasn't tomato jam. It was some sort of jam. And I scorched it before I could ever get it to a full rolling boil like we normally think of boiling water. In jelly and jam making, it's not always going to boil like water boils, just so that you know. So we're going to get this boiling and we'll be back. Okay, this is what it looks like when it comes to a full rolling boil. One that you cannot stir down. And this is where we want to get. We want to keep stirring. We want to make sure that that doesn't boil over. You may have to turn your heat down a little bit. And we're going to stir this for 1 full minute. Okay, I have let it boil for an entire minute. Now we're going to, turn the heat off. And let it calm down and skim off the foam. I had a little boil over. And that'll happen sometimes. Now, when you let it set just for a minute, it cools a little, just slightly. This is still scalding hot. But it makes it easier to move the foam over to one side, kind of, and pick it up. And I'm just going to put this in the bowl that I used for sugar. Now don't throw that foam away. It's actually extremely tasty. If you have children, give them a sleeve of saltine crackers and let them go out that foam, and they're going to be happy campers. I love it. So let me finish this and we'll be back. Okay, now you can see that I've gotten most of the foam off. You actually don't have to do this step. It just makes for a prettier looking jar is all. But when you open the jar, since the foam will go to the top, you have to remember that it's foam and not mold. You didn't do anything wrong, it's foam. I made that mistake with my first batch of jelly like 20 some years ago. 3 days later, I open a jar and there's this, well, foam that I was scared that was mold, that I did something wrong. You didn't. It's just foam. So let me get set up and we're going to put this in jars. I just took one of my jelly jars out of the boiling water, and actually it was simmering. I already boiled it. I'm putting in a funnel. And we want to fill this to 1/4 inch of the top of the jar, which is basically this top ring for the screw bands. That's where we want to fill it. That's going to be 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put in my funnel because it's going to make it oh so much easier. You don't have to have a funnel, it just makes it easier. And we're going to get some jelly. Now I have my jar on a plate because I'm sloppy. And jelly gets really sticky when it cools. So I'm just pouring that in. There we go. And then we want to wipe the rims with a dampened paper towel. And I'm just using the hot water that was in that I have my ring simmering in. I have this off to the side here. Ouch, that's hot. Woo! Okay. And we're just going to go around the outside and keep changing places on your paper towel because we just don't want to keep smearing jelly around. So I'm good with that. We're going to take our little magnet wand and reach in that hot water and grab us a lid. Now again, you don't have to have this little magnet thing. You can use the tongs. I have. Took me a couple years to realize they had these neat little nifty gadgets. There we go. Oops. And we're just going to put this lid on. And we just put the lid on, and then we're going to put the ring on. Now, everybody has a different technique or way of putting these rings on as to what's the best torque to do this. I put it on until it's not muscle strength tight, but I put it on so I know it's sealed. So it's, you start to feel the resistance and then you just turn it a little bit where you know it's closed, if that makes sense. That's how I do it. And so back into, we're using our jar lifter. I don't know if you can see that, might be a little close. And we're just going to set this jar back into the water and get another jar. And that's really all there is to it. We're going to put the funnel back in. See, I told you, you can see over here, back here, I get messy. Jelly's a kind of a messy process. And I'll show you one more jar, and then I'll turn off my camera, because I don't think you really need to see me do the whole batch. To that line. There we go, set this off to the side. Wipe our jar. Now if you drip some down the side of the jar, that's not really a huge thing. The water bath canner is going to make that go away. We just want that top lip secured. And then on with the ring, or I'm sorry, on with the flat, and on with the ring. Now I'm used to touching hot stuff for brief seconds of time, but I'm going to lift this up and just tighten it just a tad more. It's just a hair past closed. I don't know, once you start doing this, you'll know the feel of it. So I'm going to finish these jars and I'll be back. Here is my leftover jelly plate after I got all my jars filled. And you can already see that that turned into jelly. Oh, that tastes better than any store-bought you could ever buy. Ever. We are back, and I just pulled all my jelly out. When you take your jelly out of the boiling water, oh, one popped. You want to put it on a towel because you don't want any cold surface to crack your jar. And you don't want them in a draft or anything like that either. I'm just trying to get them all in the picture here. And basically that's it. You have just canned some jelly. It's so simple. If you can boil water and follow a recipe, you can can. Seriously, it's that simple. Now, because this just came out of the water bath canner, it's all liquidy. Oh, there went another one. And so we're just going to let this sit here for 24 hours. And then we're going to put it back in the box. No, we're going to label it. We're going to write on top of the lids here what it is, because I'm so bad at that, but I'm going to do this. And then put them in the box for storage or for use of whenever. You know, I might even make some Christmas gifts out of this. So I'm thinking that because I have some leftover juice and it's not enough to make another batch of jelly, I don't think, I am going to can it up and just can up some grape juice. It's just a matter of boiling the jars. This juice, since it's already been pasteurized before I froze it, just pouring it in the jars, wiping the rims, and putting it in the canner again. So it's that easy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.